Well, welcome back to the Adobe Sign 5-Star Signature Tea Lounge. With us, we have Nancy Nardin, and we're really excited about that. We are thrilled to have you joining us as you bring the knowledge from your background in being a thought leader, speaker, an evangelist, bringing marketers and sellers together to really understand what it is that we need to do to drive revenue in the tech stack space. And obviously, one thing that we all know about you and love is the sales tech landscape that you always publish and look forward to. Is one of my favorite pieces that comes out every year. So as president and founder of Smart Selling Tools, we're thrilled to have you with us.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to talk anytime, talk tech, talk sales, talk transformation.
Thank you.
Well,
good.
Let's just jump right into it
Okay.
then. You recently just released this most recent sales tech landscape. Lots of new technologies, new vendors on there. It just seems to be growing and growing and growing and growing. What are some of the trends you're noticing on there?
Yeah, well, the landscape you're talking about is basically just this big map of logos, about 450, almost 500 logos of different sales technologies. And it's really meant to help people understand, categorize, because with 450 tools, well, what do? You have to kind of categorize them somehow. And that also helps us spot trends and identify which of the tools do we really need as an organization, because everybody needs different kinds of tools. So the map, although it looks confusing and it's just a bunch of logos, it's categorized in a way that people should be able to kind of make sense of it. Where are our challenges? As far as the trends on there, I'd say the big trend is the fact that there's 450 sales tools now. And yet still today we talk about CRM. When I ask people, what's your budget for sales technology? What kind of sales tools do you use? They'll say, well, we have Salesforce and we have Marketo. It's like, okay, first of all, Marketo's not a sales tool, but okay, CRM, that's great that you have that, but there are 450 other tools that are designed to help you make better use of CRM and grow revenue, and so you have to think beyond CRM and marketing automation.
Absolutely, and it's interesting because I always see emerging markets occurring too, right? So where you said 400-ish vendors, and last year was almost half that, and the year before half that. What are some of the emerging markets that you're seeing in sales tech and SaaS technology? Yeah,
so it's always interesting to think about the latest trends, and remember just a couple years ago here it was all about big data.
Yes,
I haven't heard that term in a while, right? Now it's all about AI, and that's great, and we should be thinking it forward and thinking ahead. But I think where it's really more interesting is just in the trenches. Let's get back to basics. What do we really need to accomplish? Because, like I said, we're still thinking just in terms of CRM. And so while we've got some really interesting technologies like a Conversica that basically replaces humans in the early sales funnel with an AI agent, right? So that's interesting. But we have other more fundamental kinds of challenges that we need to address as well. So it's great to talk about future things and interesting new trends. To me, it's more about the basics.
Right. And I like that you brought up AI. I want to come back to that because I think that will wrap up some of our thoughts really well, but I definitely think that's a hot topic right now, right? Especially for our viewers.
Yeah.
So one of the things that jumped out to me that you published was on average, companies are spending roughly. They're providing they're equipping their sellers with roughly between 4 and 6 tools, right?
Yeah.
Adding 1 to 2 per year. So that we could conservatively say that each seller has roughly 5 tools that they're using every day, right? And they're not talking about CRM.
Yeah.
But every day, a seller's coming into work and they're using those tools inside and out. And on average, organizations are spending anywhere between $200 to $300 per rep, right?
Yeah.
Is that the right thing to be doing? Are we overburdening them? Are we spending too much? Are we not spending enough?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's Let's think about the tools that they're using that go into that 5 or 6 tools. I mean, some of them are things like just online meeting, right? Some of them are things like scheduling tools. They're not all like individual platforms. That would be a mess. But so still, they are having to deal with a lot of tools. I think what's going to need to happen is we're going to have to find a way to stitch those together. Let's not make the salesperson operate tools. Let's make the tools operate on behalf of the salesperson. Still, everything we have today is based on a salesperson going in and manipulating something.
Right.
I'm going to go in and I'm going to enter this, and then therefore that's going to impact that, and I'm still having to operate all the dials. We got to do better. We have to think in terms of lean selling, lean manufacturing. How can we deliver to the salesperson what they need, when and where they need it, rather than make them still manipulate all the dials? When we do that, we'll start to see the tools go away. And not go away like they don't exist anymore, but visually, like the salesperson won't be so aware that I've got 6 tools. They're just serving me.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, because I once had a CEO who used to always say, we need to get the technology so right that it actually gets out of the way and allows our user to do their job. And something similar to what you said, and yet today I feel like that is not quite what's happening in the sales environment.
No.
Right? I consciously am painstakingly logging into my CRM, having to take every step in every part of my sales cycle. It's not getting out of the way.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I've seen a couple of technologies come and go that would have been beautiful for this, to help technology get out of the way. They were all designed to help the salesperson to sort of monitor what's going on in email, and monitor what's happening with meetings in the calendar, and to just take that information and deliver insight to the sales rep. Well, you haven't called this person back, or this person hasn't returned your email, or this just information and alerts that salespeople need. And those tools came and went. Nobody bought them. They couldn't make it in the marketplace, which is heartbreaking to me, because that's what sellers need. But the reality today still is that organizations are still looking at the back end. Hey, we've got to make sure that we reduce all these different numbers of Salesforce instances. We've got to shore up all of this back end stuff. Oh, the salesperson, what do they need? Well, they got CRM, don't they? They got online meetings. What do they need? We're not yet at that point where they're saying, hey, this could really help our sellers and our salespeople.
So are we implementing technology for our ops people or for our sellers? Like, what's happening?
Ops, managers, sales enablement is where it's clear that your job is to sort of serve the sellers and try to make their job easier. And that's becoming much more of a profession, and there's a society now for that, where they're really raising the level of awareness for that role. But for the most part, a lot of it is, look, what do we need to run the operations of the business? What do we need? We need to have good analytics. We need to have good data. We need to have the right kinds of reports. That's great, but how does that impact what takes place between a salesperson and a customer or prospect? That's all behind the scenes stuff.
Right.
When are we going to focus on helping the seller give a better customer experience? And when are we going to enable the buyer rather than just the salesperson? We're going to make it easy for them to get the information they need when they need it. We have the exciting thing is that we've got so much further to go, and it's going to be really awesome to watch it unfold. The bad news is that we have a long way to go.
So what are some of the technologies that you uncovered during your most recent accumulation of your research that gets you excited? So any that might not be getting attention that they should be?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let me tell you a little bit about how I broke it down, because I think that'll give some context. So the way I looked at sales technology is, what's the most fundamental important thing for a salesperson to know, or for all sellers to know?
Yeah.
I'll put you on the spot.
What's the most important thing to know?
Yeah. Before you do anything else, what do you have to
I need to know what my buyer's biggest issues are, their pains.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a good one, I'm putting you on the spot here because I know the answer,
Well,
and you'll go, yeah.
let's
So the
keep
answer,
going.
the answer is, I need to know who I should be selling to. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So
yeah, you know,
I knew you would. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to know.
That's obvious.
We need
right?
to know, right?
We need to know.
But that's actually a great point that you bring up. Is that sometimes we go into this knowing we know the vertical, right? And we know more or less the persona, but actually, do we know that we have the right people targeted in the right organizations, the right accounts,
Yes,
right?
right.
So, excellent point.
And do we know how to prioritize them? We might have a huge market, but we don't know how to prioritize them. So, first thing is, are we knocking on the right doors?
Right.
And it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy. So the most fundamental need is to survival and success is who do we sell to? The next higher up is, okay, how do we get them to open the door? How do we engage? Because it's so hard now to be competitive and to get an appointment and get an at-bat that people refer to. So how do we get them to engage? And there are technologies that help with that help differentiate you and set you apart. Like I'm really big on the whole video selling idea.
Interesting.
Think about a person who's just calling up people, SDR for instance. You know, that person that you're an interruption. First of all, you're a total interruption. I don't know if I even want to talk to you. What if you sent them instead an email and there was a thumbnail of a salesperson, you know, waving, and it had a little message, "Hi Nancy, I just have a quick message for you." I'd open that, right? So it's something new and different.
So you're talking about the Videolicious, BombBombs.
Yes.
Those that are taking video and allowing sellers to actually make real personal connection as opposed to just here's another email.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, and the one I was thinking about in that instance, you're right, those will do that. And then Queso Innovation or Queso Drive does that as well. They have some interesting things like that thumbnail where you can, you know, write something on it. But the whole thing is, look, if I want to get somebody to engage, I have to be different. I can't do the same thing everybody else is doing. And back when email first came out, that was an advantage if you could email someone. Well, obviously that's not an advantage anymore. If you can send a video email out, that's now an advantage. So be different. Don't be the same. Then the next level up is, okay, we've got them to engage. How do we convey value? How do we, in a way that they'll accept it? We can talk. We can talk at them and tell them all their value, but how are we going to get them to really understand and get it?
Right.
And then how are we going to get all the members of the buying team to understand it? Now, this isn't just a way to look at technology, it's a way to look at where are all the friction points in our sales process. So that tells us where the challenges are, which then tells us, hey, what technology is out there to help us with that.
Right.
Then just to finish off the hierarchy, the next one up is how do we get the deal to close after all of that work? And then the self-actualization, if you will, is how do we get them to buy again? How do you renew? How do you upsell, cross-sell?
So let's go through that again. So the bottom it was, how do I get them to even just pay attention? How do I compel them?
Who is it?
Then, right, who is it?
Yeah.
And then it's with the video we were talking about, actually compelling, engaging, and then next it was providing value, sending a message of value, right?
Yeah.
And then after that,
closing,
and then how do they come back, right? How do we continue?
How do we keep them? How do we sell more? How do we get them to buy again? Yeah. Now, that's just from the seller's perspective, but then, well, where does forecasting come in? Where does coaching come in? Where does skills development and reinforcement come in? Those are things that sort of permeate that whole, they're not, at a hierarchical level. They permeate the whole system. But right now, a lot of buyers are still focused on the forecasting. They're still focusing on the training. They're still focusing on those things, which, yes, they help the salesperson, but it doesn't specifically address the sales process itself.
Let's actually talk about this category. This is something I've been getting really excited about, and historically we've had the whole world of sales training platforms, LMSs, all that technology, but I'm starting to see this trend of sales coaching platforms, actually tools that allow the frontliners to be coached by their leaders, right? And putting technology in the hand of coaches is something that I can't believe it took this long.
right?
What do you think about this space, and
Yeah.
do you see anything that's getting you excited about it?
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't send, sports teams out to play without any kind of coaching.
Right.
We don't say, oh, we don't need practice. Just go out there and do your best. Right?
crazy.
Come up with a plan on your own. Come up with a play on your own. We don't do that. So I do like the tools where you get to rehearse or practice
yeah.
on video, and that takes a while to get used to. But it's a lot better than doing role playing in front of a group in a room in front of your peers.
safe.
It's just not. It's not realistic.
different, right.
It's more to just show that, hey, whew, I passed that test. I did it. But when you're just in your own office and you got your webcam and you get a chance to practice different scenarios, I mean, you realize, oh, that didn't really come out so well.
Right.
Or, oh my gosh, Jane over there said that thing, that was brilliant. I'm going to start incorporating that. So it's coaching from your managers, but also cross-coaching and just elevating everyone by being a team.
Yeah, one thing that stood out to me is we started implementing video coaching technology and also audio recording with Chorus. We found that ADMs who normally were perhaps just shy or nervous and only had opportunities to practice in front of their peers in role play scenarios started self-pacing and started practicing over and over and over and over again on their own, where they didn't get that opportunity before. And so now they're really pushing themselves because now they're becoming more self-aware and they're realizing this doesn't work. What I'm saying does not sound good, and I need to get better.
Yeah, you can't go on ride-alongs with everyone as a manager, and so this does give you a way to do that. I remember way back when I first started my sales career, I would make phone calls in between. Well, let's see, no, because I started before the cell phone, but I guess it would have been after the cell phone came out. I would record myself.
Yeah.
And then I'd listen back and I go, oh my God, I sounded like an idiot.
Yeah, I used to have like a little tape deck recorder
Yes.
that I keep next to my
Exactly.
office, my phone.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, right? But, it helps, right?
Right, it does.
And the more you can, so you're practicing before you get out in the game. And
not in front of the customer.
And not in front of the customer. Although that's helpful too. Those are good learning experiences too.
It's interesting. So with that in mind, we're equipping our sellers. We're giving them more technology than we've ever given to them, and we're coaching them better than we ever have before. But now you're starting to hear this kind of creep talk that's getting out there that I'm kind of leery about, and it's about the concept of AI that you brought up earlier. Okay. I'm curious what your thoughts are, because I hear a lot of talk about what AI is, or that AI is coming in and it's creating more automation, and then now you're starting to hear the creeping in of, AI is going to replace sellers, and we don't, we're not going to need sellers, and it's going to get rid of transactional sales, and sellers are not going to be as needed. That worries me, and not because I'm worried for my job, right? Because you always need to be mindful of your role in sales, especially. But it worries me that the group think of that. What do you think?
I think they're smoking crack.
Yeah,
I do.
Good.
I mean, it's there's no way sellers are going to go away. What'll happen is it'll change the nature a little bit for the better. Think of all the drudgery salespeople have to go through right now.
Right.
I mentioned some of that earlier. Take some of that away. We're spending only 35% of our time with prospects today. And so what are we doing the other 65% of the time? It's not because we're on Facebook or something. It's we're trying to pull our forecast together, or we're sitting on our one-on-ones, or doing our pipeline reviews, or doing all this stuff that, hey, shouldn't the manager be able to get a quick glimpse of the pipeline, understand what they need to ask of the salesperson, get in, get out, find out the information, figure out how to coach? It shouldn't take all that time. So those are the things that I think it's going to help with. It's not going to eliminate sellers. It's going to help make their job a lot easier,
right?
And a lot better to get. And maybe we can reallocate some of those resources. If you think about sales as like what we're doing is really manufacturing revenue. Right? So we're really manufacturers. So we're not using our sales capacity in a very effective way. It's underutilized. We're using it in the wrong way. So if we can reorient that sales capacity into higher value tasks, That's what's going to happen. We're not going to do away with salespeople. Maybe on the transactional kinds of things. I can see it in some instances.
Yeah.
But what'll happen there probably is the salesperson's going to be ready at a moment's notice to talk to that person,
right?
Because they're on the website,
right,
and they're filling something out, and like there's a solution called Drift,
yep,
that you don't have to go through marketing automation first. It automatically knows how to route it to the right salesperson when somebody starts to chat, and that to me is where the magic comes in.
So it's creating velocity in this process. It's not replacing.
No.
So to sell is still human.
Yes.
And requires human touch.
Yes.
But to equip our sellers, to equip ourselves as leaders with the right technology that enable us to create more of a velocity in our sales cycle, that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
So it really is going to, I think, change the way that we're selling by helping us do it better, to know who and when and why and how much, and not having to spend as much time guessing, right? And asking burdensome questions of our buyers that really adds no value to the buyer either.
Right.
Right?
Well, just think, that made me think of something. Remember BANT?
Of course.
Right? Where'd that go, right? Budget,
authority, right?
Authority, need, and timing. Yeah. Well, do they qualify for BANT? No, because if they did, then I couldn't go in and sell to them. I mean, nobody has that figured out yet. It's BANT has gone away for them in many industries. You can't make blanket statements for everyone.
Did you guys hear that?
BANT is gone.
It's gone.
Gone. If you're selling for someone who says you should be operating on BANT, go find another job.
Or just help them get it better.
Or
this
help
needs to change.
Because people don't have budget for things that they don't know about.
Right.
It's your job as a salesperson to educate them that they need to know about it and they need to use it and act on it. So that's something that's already changed from selling. But otherwise, Scott Santucci asked me a question recently that I had a hard time answering, and he said, Nancy, you and I, we've been selling for a long time. If we were new in sales right now, would we be as successful today as we were when we were sellers? I don't know the answer to. I don't know if I would be. I mean, certainly I sell today as a business owner, and there are great things that we have today that we didn't have before, like social media and things like that. But we have so many balls now that we have to juggle, that things are going to drop, and then we got demands, and managers are saying, well, what's going on? And it's like, what do you mean what's going on? I mean, where do I start? There's just so much that you have to keep track of, and we're not doing very well by. We're not doing our jobs as sales leaders or sales ops or sales enablement, helping them do their job. They're doing so much heavy lifting. There's so much on their shoulders. We got to do something to help salespeople.
It requires more attention to their needs and not only worrying about the analytics side of things, right?
Yeah.
So let's get to something that we are really excited to talk about. Recently, actually it's been recurring. We find that feedback from users is that ESignature tends to be the top rated tool year over year for users. Why do you believe that is? And does it belong there? Should it be one of the top rated tools?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you brought that up, because we did some research on tool acquisition and assessment and all that, and we asked people for their perception of sales technologies. And ESignatures rated, meh, right? Kind of in the, I don't know if we really need that or not. And yet, of those that when we then asked of those that use ESignatures, how do you rank the benefits? And it's number one.
Interesting.
And then, but what happened also that we noticed is that ESignatures tends to be a tool that maybe you get 6th in line or 7th in line in terms of number of tools that you have. And so all these people who are recognizing the benefits that they're getting from ESignatures, people that aren't recognizing that could have been, but instead they wait until they get other things first. Oh, I'm going to get these 5 tools, and then maybe we'll get ESignatures. Well, that's the one that's rated in the highest, in the top for satisfaction. And I know why, because sellers want things that are going to help them. We hear a lot about adoption issues. You don't have adoption issues with ESignatures because it helps them.
Simple.
It's simple. Yeah. It doesn't take a lot of training. it gives them back more than they're required to put into it.
And it gives so much time back.
Right, and they know then that they're going to. Let's talk about how often when you get a verbal, and then you still don't get the deal. It happens all the time because a lot can go wrong between, hey, I got a verbal, and where's that order? I was expecting that order, and now it's 3 days, and now it's 5 days, and I left the guy a message, and all of a sudden now you lose the deal because, oh, sorry, reorg, or oh, sorry, we just got acquired, or oh, sorry, your guy just left and is no longer with the company. So you need, when you get that verbal, you want to get that signature as fast as possible. So it's fast time to value. It's not an expensive tool. It doesn't require a big decision-making process. It's not hard to implement. So I'm a big believer in ESignatures, and not just because I think it's a good thing, because our research shows that people really get value from it.
It takes me back to the 10 years I spent in surgical device, right? I was a surgical device rep for 10 years. And this was before we had e-signature technologies readily available. I can't tell you how much time I lost chasing down my physicians, my buyers, my surgeons, my hospital administrators, just trying to get a darn signature. And you know how busy they are?
Right.
And I think back, if I would have been able to go into those scenarios over the last 10 years of that career and just make it so simple for them to have an e-signature, not only would it have probably closed more deals faster, but I think I would have added more value back to my buyer, and I received appreciation.
Right. It's a great customer experience.
Right.
You made their job easier. Who wants to print something out, sign it, figure out how am I going to scan this in? I mean, it's crazy what we ask our customers to go through.
It's
and
terrible.
you know what? And you start to lose momentum. Like, how many times have you decided, hey, that's really cool. I really want that thing, whatever that thing is. I really want it. And then you end up not, for whatever reason, buying it at that moment. And the next day it's like, I can live without that. I don't need it. But had you bought it, you would still be happy with it. So you have to take advantage of that momentum and that excitement when the customer has it and get them to sign.
Get that
because,
signature.
the momentum can go away real fast.
Oh boy, tell me about it. It's been there. So as we wrap this up, in my mind, I think the takeaway really is, gone are the days that we place our sellers in a room in the middle of a gym in the basketball court, sit them in a chair and say, here's a bag of balls, go shoot. Here's how you play basketball. We can't do that anymore. No, we got to take them on the court. We got to teach them and show them how to play.
Yeah.
We got to equip them. We got to give them what they need, right? And if that's the way that we are coaching, we need to take a deep look at ourselves and figure out how can we transform our organizations to do better for our sellers, so that they're doing better for our buyers, who really are the ones along the journey, right?
Right. Take care of your sellers. It takes care of your customers. It takes care of your revenue. It just goes upstream. And that was a great way of putting it, and I'm going to expand on that. We have to also stop asking our sellers to fill up the basketballs with air.
Yes.
We have to stop asking them to drag the chair out into the middle of the basketball court. We ask our sellers to do every part of the sales process. And we got to equip them with what they need at the moment they need it. If they're at the basket, give them that ball, let them shoot it in. Don't make them go, oh, where am I going to, here's a basket. Oh, I'll throw it over here in a box. Now go get it out of the box and then go back over there and throw it. I mean, that's sort of what we do with our sellers today.
Right. And most of the time, we're not even in the gym with them. They're alone.
Right.
They're alone.
Right.
So, for those who know Nancy, right, they know where to find you. But for those who may have been tuning in today for the first time and gotten to know you and your research and what you're doing, where can they learn more about you and what you're working on? And is there anything that excited that you've got coming up that you want to share?
Well, anyone who wants to talk to me, I'm open. I love talking sales tech, so anytime, get in touch with me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'll accept your invitation. Send me a tweet. We're big on social. But go to our website, because we have a lot of free resources for people. I do a video every week on a different sales technology. In 2 or 3 minutes, people can learn about a tool they didn't know about, decide whether they want to look into it or maybe not, and that's okay too. It's just a great way to stay up to date on technology.
And what's your website?
smartsellingtools.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us in the Adobe Sign 5-star Signature Lounge today, and we
That's
look forward
been great.
to doing more work with you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise.
High fives. Thanks.